Amin. Coming? Can you go ahead and tell him? I think he's probably typing it out. I already did all of that. He just has to click. He just has to click the right one. Yeah. Um, did you see mine? I had already put. Yeah. Oh, okay. All right. One more message, please. All right. All right. And can you turn on the mic too, please? Can you turn the mic on, please? All right. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسوله الكريم وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. Okay, so we're going to go on a journey today, inshallah, between two stories. The story of Yusuf alayhi salam and the story of Musa alayhi salam. Now here is a disclaimer. Firstly, I am going to tell you that the slides that I have up here are AI, okay? So I'm not 100% sure what's up there. So more than what you focus on of what's up there, listen to what I'm saying, okay? So I didn't get a chance to completely look through this. I think the sound is too high. I think the sound is too high. Okay. Okay, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. So first things first. Oh. Okay. All right. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulihil kareem wa ala alihi wa sahbihi sallam tasliman kathira. So first thing, before I start, I'm actually going to take us into the future. Okay? And what do I mean by that? So last time, or 2 times ago, we finished the actual surah. And then after we finished the surah, we talked about 12 lessons. Now, we finished all of that off, that's finished. What happened after Yusuf alayhi salam? The parents came, did sajda, the brothers did sajda, everything was fixed after that, right? What about afterwards? We talked about it slightly when we went back to Baqarah, and in Baqarah Allah says, إِذْ حَضَرَ يَعْقُوبَ الْمَوْتِ, and then he told his sons what? مَا تَعْبُدُونَ مِن بَعْدِي, what are you going to worship after me? And they said, what? نَعْبُدُ إِلَهَكَ وَإِلَهَ آبَائِكَ إِبْرَاهِيمَ وَإِسْمَعِيلَ وَإِسْحَاقَ وَيَعْقُوبَ ilahan wahida, right? Okay. After that, much after all of the 12 kids were dead, they had their own families. What happens after that? That's what the first thing I'm going to start off with. So Yusuf alayhi salam's name is mentioned in the Quran in Surah Yusuf, and where else? Where else is it mentioned? Surah Al-Ghafir. It's the only place, right? Outside of Surah Yusuf, or also mentioned in Hajj or Mu'minun. It's mentioned one more time in the list of prophets. And but other than this is where it's mentioned. And it's very important to understand the context behind why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions it here. Okay? So this is years after. Some of the scholars said like 400 years later. It's been centuries since Yusuf alayhi salam is gone. Okay? And who's in charge now? Of Egypt. Fir'aun. Fir'aun is in charge. So Fir'aun has, and I'm going to go over Musa alayhi salam's story very, very quickly before going into this, because that's like, we have to understand a little bit of that too. But Fir'aun starts, Fir'aun has a discussion with other people. He gets really upset with Musa alayhi salam. And they have a back and forth in Surah Ghafir. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, وَقَالَ رَجُلٌ مُؤْمِنٌ مِّنْ آلِ فِرْعَوْنَ يَكْتُمُ إِيمَانَهُ أَتَقْتُلُونَ رَجُلًا أَن يَقُولَ رَبِّيَ اللَّهُ وَقَدْ جَاءَكُم بِالْبَيِّنَاتِ مِن رَبِّكُمْ وَإِن يَكُ كَاذِبًا فَعَلَيْهِ كَذِبُهُ وَإِن يَكُ صَادِقًا يُصِبْكُم بَعْضُ الَّذِي يَعِدُكُم إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَهْدِي مَنْ هُوَ مُسْرِفٌ كَذَّابٌ. He starts off. It's very, very interesting. Like, Ramadan is coming. You'll be preparing with your Quran and all of that. Go through the Quran and see how many times Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ever quotes someone else. And I think this is the longest passage Allah has ever quoted from another person. And he's not even a prophet. This person is not even a prophet. He's most likely a soldier from Fir'aun's army. So, and he's a high-ranking official. So, one of the things I'll mention, a little bit later on, Musa alayhi salam, after he killed someone, his friend said to him, someone came to him and said, they're going to kill you, run away from Egypt. This is that same person. This is that same person. وَقَالَ رَجُلٌ مُؤْمِنٌ. So he is a believing person from Fir'aun's people. يَكْتُمُ إِيمَانُهُ. He's hiding his iman. And he makes a very straightforward question. Are you going to kill someone just because he says his God is one? Is that the only reason? And he keeps on talking about it, going back and forth in Musa alayhi salam's defense. يَا قَوْمِ لَكُمُ الْمُلْكُ الْيَوْمِ ظَاهِرِينَ فِي الْأَرْضِ فَمَنْ يَنْصُرُنَا مِنْ بَأْسِ اللَّهِ إِنْ جَاءَنَا. You have the strongest kingdom. Let's say he's actually right, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to send His punishment down on us. Who's going to save us? He gives emotional arguments, he gives intellectual arguments, like logical arguments, and he's being very logical and straightforward. This is what it is. وَقَالَ الَّذِي آمَنَ يَا قَوْمِ إِنِّي أَخَافُ عَلَيْكُمْ مِثْلَ يَوْمِ الْأَحْزَابِ. And if you read the rest of this, we actually get a few more of the names of the Day of Judgment. It's very beautiful. Then comes the next page. Remember, centuries later. وَلَقَدْ جَاءَكُمْ يُوسُفُ مِنْ قَبْلُ بِالْبَيِّنَاتِ فَمَا زِلْتُمْ فِي شَكٍّ مِمَّا جَاءَكُمْ بِهِ حَتَّى إِذَا هَلَكَ قُلْتُمْ لَنْ يَبْعَثَ اللَّهُ مِنْ بَعْدِهِ رَسُولًا كَذَلِكَ يُضِلُّ اللَّهُ مَنْ هُوَ مُسْرِفٌ مُرْتَابٌ. Listen, now pay attention to this. Yusuf alayhi salam did what when he went to jail? If you know the story, or if you were in the class. The people came up to him, asked him for the interpretation of the dream, yeah? Then he just gave them the answer? He gave them da'wah. أَرْبَابٌ مُتَفَرِّقُونَ خَيْرٌ أَمِ اللَّهُ الْوَاحِدُ الْقَهَّارُ. And he talked about ithbat and nahi. We talked about these different things, okay? So Yusuf alayhi salam is in jail, and he still gives da'wah to people, yeah? Now imagine this for just one moment. He becomes the minister of finance, and he's at the top of the hierarchy of Egyptian royalty. Do you think he's not going to give da'wah to the people? Of course. So he's teaching, he's telling other people. He's in charge of the government, and most likely everyone around him is learning about what Islam is. Everyone around him is learning what Islam is. Many people become Muslim, right? وَلَقَدْ جَاءَكُمْ يُوسُفُ مِنْ قَبْلُ بِالْبَيِّنَاتِ. He came to you with clear proofs. فَمَا زِلْتُمْ فِي شَكٍّ مِمَّا جَاءَكُمْ بِهِ. You still disbelieved. You still had some kind of doubt in that. حَتَّى إِذَا هَلَكَ قُلْتُمْ لَنْ يَبْعَثَ اللَّهُ مِنْ بَعْدِهِ رَسُولًا. You thought after he was gone that Allah would never send another messenger. So the biblical, we don't know 100%, but we can kind of estimate that Fir'aun had some kind of a dream in which he thought that someone from Bani Israel was going to come and destroy his kingdom. Okay? We don't. Allah doesn't say that explicitly in the Quran, but we can assume that, especially based on what's in the Bible. They thought no other prophet was going to come, and they wouldn't believe it. Okay, so with this in mind, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala even gave us what happens much later on. The effects of his da'wah, the effects of the hard work that he did, stayed long after. Fir'aun knew about Yusuf alayhi salam, and he knew about Allah's deen. And there were people who were still Muslim. But this person was a soldier in Fir'aun's army, and he couldn't just tell everyone that he was Muslim. So he hid his iman. All right. So with that, let's go to Musa alayhi salam's story very, very quickly, very quick rundown of it, and then there are some certain ayat that I'm going to elaborate more on to show us this amazingness between these two surahs. Okay. So Musa alayhi salam was born in Egypt about 400 or 500 years after Yusuf alayhi salam was gone. Okay, after that time. All of the Israelites, meaning Bani Israel and their offspring and the entire race of people, were enslaved by Fir'aun. Okay? He has an older brother and an older sister. The sister is the oldest, then the brother, who is who? Harun. Okay? And then Musa alayhi salam is born. So when Musa alayhi salam is born, it's one of the years that Fir'aun is killing babies. So something happens, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends revelation down to the mother, when the soldiers are coming by, then give him milk so that he doesn't cry. Afterwards, more revelation came down, put him inside of the river and just let him go. The mom tells the daughter, go and just watch after him as he's going. Musa alayhi salam goes all the way to the kingdom, okay, of Fir'aun, like the palace, where he's found by Asiyah. Asiyah is the wife of Fir'aun. They take the child. We'll talk about that ayah as well, inshallah. They take Musa alayhi salam. Then the daughter who is following says, hey, I know someone that can breastfeed Musa alayhi salam. Because Allah says, وَحَرَّمْنَا عَلَيْهِ الْمَرَاضِعِ. We made all of the wet nurses, all of the women that can give him milk, all of the milk was haram for Musa alayhi salam, except his own mother. So Allah reunited the family that way. After this, he would be raised inside of this, and then there's a little bit of a time lapse. We go way much later on until he is a teenager in his 20s. He's much older and stronger. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that this is the point where he gave him strength and knowledge. Okay? All right. After this, Musa alayhi salam gets into a confrontation. He is an Israelite. He looks like an Israelite. He doesn't look like an Egyptian. So he has there's two people who are having a fight. An Israelite, who is Bani Israel, and an Egyptian soldier in Fir'aun's army. So the Israelite asks Musa alayhi salam for help. So when Musa alayhi salam goes to help him, he hits the Egyptian one time, and the Egyptian dies. Then the same thing happens a little bit after. Musa alayhi salam makes dua right away after this, but the same thing is happening again a little bit later on, where the Israelite and someone else are arguing. So, interesting, Musa alayhi salam goes up to him and he says, I'm not helping you, you're the troublemaker, you're the problem here. So he says to him, are you going to kill me like you killed the other person too? A little bit after this, because he says this in front of everyone. All right? When Musa alayhi salam would go out during like qaylula time when everyone was asleep. So no one else saw that first hit and they didn't know who did it. The next day, Musa alayhi salam was surrounded by other people. And this person, he said it out loud and essentially told everyone that Musa was the one who killed that soldier. So his friend, who we talked about here, came to Musa alayhi salam. He said, listen, the Fir'aun's army is coming to kill you. Fir'aun's army is coming to kill you. You have to leave. Musa alayhi salam didn't think about anything. He just ran away. He gets to a place called Midian, and he tries to relax, and he sees these two women who are struggling to give their animals water because there's so many other people that are surrounded. He helps them out. Long story short, one of those daughters comes back and tells Musa alayhi salam, my father wants to repay you for your service. As a reward and kind of compensation, Musa alayhi salam was married to one of the two daughters. He stayed there 8 to 10 years. Then afterwards, he was leaving from there, and he saw on the mountain, he saw a fire get ignited. He went over there, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had a conversation with him. He said, I am Allah, and you are a prophet, this is your responsibility now. This is when Musa alayhi salam has a conversation with Allah and he says, listen, I need you to bring my brother because he is afsahu minni lisanan. What's the rest of it? Afsahu minni. What's the second one? Oh, that's it? That's the only one in this? Okay, okay. So he says he's more eloquent than I am. He's more eloquent than I am. He can do the speaking. So Allah says, okay, both of you go to Fir'aun, but speak very silent, very quietly with him. So they go all the way to Fir'aun. They sit inside of Fir'aun's palace and they speak with him. They say, listen, I am a messenger from Allah who has come to give you this message. And Fir'aun says to him, interesting, you're going to come and preach to me after you did that thing that you did? That's the way he says it. You did the thing that you did, meaning he killed someone. So Musa alayhi salam takes accountability right away, accepts it. I did what I did, and I was the wrong person in that. I made a mistake. It shouldn't have happened. Then he turns around and he says, are you going to use this as a justification for enslaving the entire race of Bani Israel? So they go back and forth for a little while, and then, very interesting, he says, if any of you, or to Musa alayhi salam, if you don't stop doing this, I'm going to throw you into jail. That's going to come again too. After this, they have a duel, where Musa alayhi salam is given two clear signs from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is what you have to do to win. That's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells him. Fir'aun gets all of the magicians, even the ones from the furthest outskirts of the desert, for everyone to come inside. And he says, any of you who wins, you're going to be the closest people to me. This is your reward. Okay? So they have their fight, and then what happens? Musa alayhi salam wins. And the magicians fall into sajda. Okay. I'm giving you little bits of information. When it comes in, I want you to remember these things. Okay, because all of this is in parallel with Surah Yusuf. Then after this, Musa alayhi salam, Fir'aun gets very upset. You believed before I gave you permission to believe. So I'm going to kill all of you. I'm going to crucify you. I'm going to cut off your hand and the opposite leg. And you'll be on show for everyone. They ran away. All of them ran away. Musa alayhi salam and all of Bani Israel and the magicians, everyone who was under Fir'aun's tyranny, and everyone who believed ran away towards the sea. Fir'aun and his entire army were coming this way. Musa alayhi salam was with his people. Someone said, now Fir'aun is going to get us. We are surely going to lose. This is when Musa alayhi salam says what? Kalla inna ma'iya rabbi sayahdi. Absolutely not. Allah is with me and He will guide me. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells him, take the staff and strike the water. It'll turn into two huge mountains. You walk to the other side. Fir'aun, when he finally made it, he came inside and all of the water drowned him. The water had reached up to his neck. That's when he says, I believe in whatever he believes in. But he wasn't able to finish the statement because Allah wouldn't allow it. He was drowned and he died as a kafir. Okay, now a little bit more because this is also important. Musa alayhi salam gets to the other side. And he starts having conversations with Bani Israel. They literally just got saved and they start complaining about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They start complaining about their situation. They were slaves 10 minutes ago and now they're complaining. What's the first conversation? I want to see Allah. Show me Allah. And then? No, not yet. And then? I don't want this food. I'm not going to have patience with this. They were slaves 10 minutes ago. Now, Fir'aun was going to kill them. I don't want this anymore. I want this. I want all of these different types of foods. Later on, Musa alayhi salam would leave, and then they would do what? Take the calf. And they would threaten Harun. Right? That's why he said, he took his by the beard. He said, what's wrong with you? You didn't stop them? He said, they threatened my life. Okay. Musa alayhi salam, at the end of the story, he gets so frustrated. I'm done with these people. And he leaves. He leaves. This is the end of the story. A lot of things happen. Obviously, I'm not covering the entire thing. That's not the purpose. What's the purpose of from this point forward now for the time that we have remaining? We're going to talk about the contrast between Surah Yusuf and the story of Musa alayhi salam. And I don't say surah because the story that we're going to talk about is through multiple surahs. Okay, so there are a few ayat from Taha. Most of it is from Shu'ara and Qasas, and then the ayah from Ghafir as well. So that's why I have all of the mushafs open. And then I have the live hafiz as well. And like I mentioned earlier, don't mind the slides. I'm going to do most of the talking. Bismillah. Number one. The story, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala starts off, both sides of the story, but He gives only one parental side for each prophet. Okay? He only gives one side. So Yusuf alayhi salam goes to his father to say the story, right? This is the dream that I saw. Musa alayhi salam, his mother was the one who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave the wahi to, or the ilham to, I mean. The entirety of Yusuf alayhi salam is about the father with Yusuf, and the entirety of Musa alayhi salam is with the mother with Yusuf. The father is never mentioned in Musa's story, and the mother is never mentioned in Yusuf's story. Okay? Then, what were they afraid of? Yusuf alayhi salam's, and again, this is, we're understanding it in contrast. So, what are the similarities and what are the differences between the two stories? Meaning that there's think of it as one spectrum. Yusuf will usually be on one side and Musa will be usually on the other side. Okay, but we're talking about the same concept. What were they afraid of? Yaqub was afraid of who? The brothers. The brothers. It was an internal fear. They were afraid of something inside of the house. Musa alayhi salam's mother was afraid of what? External fear of Fir'aun and his army. Okay. After this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, eventually what ends up happening is that both parents, Yaqub and Musa's mother, they both say, okay, we have to let them go. Yusuf alayhi salam was let go because the brothers were convincing him and emotionally blackmailing him. Nahnu usbah. We're such a large group of people, nothing is going to happen to him. They kept on pushing until it finally happened. But in Musa's story, the mother, and this is a mother, she let her son, who was just born, put him into a basket and put him into the river. And just think about that for a moment. How difficult would that be for any mother to do? So difficult. But she still did it. Why? There was no pressure. No one actually even spoke to her. Where did it come from? It came from, yes, belief, essentially belief. It came from her iman in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So she let Musa alayhi salam go. Okay, and then throughout the what am I looking for? Okay, then throughout the story, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us more about what happens, فَإِذَا خِفْتِ عَلَيْهِ فَأَلْقِيهِ فِي الْيَمِّ, Allah says, وَلَا تَخَافِي وَلَا تَحْزَنِي. وَلَا تَخَافِي وَلَا تَحْزَنِي. Don't be afraid and don't worry about anything. For Yaqub, what was the entirety of those 40 years? وَلَا تَخَافِي وَلَا تَحْزِنِي to Musa's mother, don't be afraid and do not worry. Yaqub spent the entire time doing that. He had no idea, he had no communication with his son. So he was in that fear and that sadness for so long, to the point, what happened? He lost his eyesight. He lost his eyesight. Okay. Yusuf alayhi salam, he receives what from his father? At the very beginning of the story, he's only 7 years old. He receives, so there are 3 types of nourishment. Okay? Emotional nourishment. Someone is sad about something, you talk to them, you comfort them. spiritual nourishment, which is about iman. Increase the iman, tie you closer to Allah and the deen. And then the last one is what? Physical nourishment. You need food, water to eat and live. All three are mentioned between the two. In the story of Yaqub to Yusuf alayhi salam, physical, emotional and spiritual. How? He tells the son, لا تقصص رؤياك على إخوتك فيكيدوا لك كيدا. That's emotional. He says, listen, you have to understand and be prepared. Your brothers are not the best, so something bad might happen to you. Emotional strength he gives them. And then religious strength. إِنَّ الشَّيْطَانَ لِلْإِنسَانِ عَدُوٌّ مُبِينٌ. Shaitan is a very clear enemy for human beings. But for Musa alayhi salam, it was neither. It was physical. How was it physical? وَأَوْحَيْنَا إِلَىٰ أُمِّ مُوسَىٰ أَنْ أَرْضِعِيهِ. We gave a revelation to Musa's mother to breastfeed him. And that was the food that he received, the physical nourishment. Both of them, at the beginning of their stories, are receiving some sort of nourishment from their parents. Okay? And this is interesting, because think about it for a second. As a man who is providing for his family, isn't it usually the man's responsibility to provide the physical nourishment? You pay the rent, you buy the groceries, you pay for all of that. And then the wives are usually at home, and they're the ones speaking with the kids and teaching them and all of that stuff. Yeah? And here it's flipped. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is teaching us it can go both ways. It can go both ways. And just because you're in one particular situation doesn't mean you're lacking anything. Each person can play the role of the other. You can do this. And it is both parents' responsibilities for this. Both parents are responsible for giving physical nourishment, emotional, and religious, spiritual nourishment to the children. This is what we are learning just up until here. Okay, next. Sibling versus sister dynamics. Very interesting. Yusuf alayhi salam was betrayed by who? His brothers. Musa alayhi salam was saved by who? Because of who? His sister. Okay. So this is one of those very stark differences. Okay. Yusuf alayhi salam's brothers abandoned him. They're the ones who caused the separation. They broke the trust. They fight with the with their father. Their father has a fear. He says, I'm not sure about this. I'm afraid. I'm afraid that a wolf is going to eat him. But the brothers talk back and say, no. نحن عصبة and all of these different things. إِنَّا لَهُ لَحَافِظُونَ إِنَّا لَهُ لَنَاصِحُونَ. And they say all of these different things to him. Okay? And they get very creative with their lies. Now, listen to this. Which surah am I even looking at? In Yusuf alayhi salam's story, Yusuf gets thrown into the well. And then what happens? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala communicates with him, and he ends off with what? لَتُنَبِّئَنَّهُمْ بِأَمْرِهِمْ وَهُمْ لَا يَشْعُرُونَ. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when Allah here وقالت امرأة فرعون قرة عين لي ولك لا تقتلوه عسى أن ينفعنا أو نتخذه ولدا وهم لا يشعرون. Same concept. Meaning, here's what's happening. Because I'm going to come back to this ayah. I won't translate the whole thing right now. The brothers of Musa, the brothers of Yusuf do something to him. They do something to him. And afterwards, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, look, something else is going to happen, don't worry. And they had no idea that this was going on or whatever is going to happen in the future. Same thing when Musa alayhi salam gets taken into the kingdom of Fir'aun, Allah says, وَهُمْ لَا يَشْعُرُونَ. They picked him up and brought him inside and they had absolutely no idea. The same exact thing. They had no idea. Then, وَحَرَّمْنَا عَلَيْهِ الْمَرَاضِعَ مِنْ قَبْلُ فَقَالَتْ هَلْ أَدُلُّكُمْ عَلَىٰ أَهْلِ بَيْتٍ يَكْفُلُونَهُ لَكُمْ وَهُمْ لَهُ نَاصِحُونَ. The sister went up to the guards, the guards of the Egyptian palace, the Pharaoh's palace, and said to them, they were worried, they were talking amongst each other, this baby is not drinking anyone's milk, what do we do? She said, I can tell you about someone who is breastfeeding right now. And she says very specifically, عَلَىٰ أَهْلِ بَيْتٍ يَكْفُلُونَهُ لَكُمْ. They're going to take care of him for you. وَهُمْ لَهُ نَاصِحُونَ. And they're going to take good care of him. The brothers of Yusuf ﷺ said the same thing to their father. إِنَّا لَهُ لَنَاصِحُونَ. The exact same wordage, exact same thing. And now over here, the sister of Musa ﷺ is saying that on his behalf. So now contrast all of the bad things that the brothers did with the sister. The sister is the source of protection. That's how Musa alayhi salam was brought to safety and taken care of. Because the entire time, because one of the things I mentioned is talking back, right? She didn't talk back. The brothers talked back to the parents, but she didn't talk back. She said, the mother says to the daughter, Musa's mom says to his sister, وَقَالَتْ لِأُخْتِهِ قُصِّيهِ. Go and follow him. Make sure that he's okay. So Allah tells us, فَبَصُرَتْ بِهِ عَنْ جُنُوبٍ وَهُمْ لَا يَشْعُرُونَ. She kept on walking on the bank of the river, and she would just keep looking like this. She wasn't like, she wasn't doing like this so that she would get caught, but she was casually strolling by and just looking out of the corner of her eyes, saying, okay, he's safe, he's safe. The mother said, go, qusli, that's one word, qusli, go after him. And she did exactly what she was supposed to do, okay? So she refused to abandon the basket. She's the reason why the reunion happened. The brothers broke the family up. The sister brought the family together. Okay, next, secrets. Yusuf alayhi salam was told by the father, Yaqub told him, don't tell your brothers what this is, what's going on. Okay? For whatever reason, don't tell your brothers. The sister was told to do something, but she kept it to herself without having been told to do that. So both families have to do something in secret. You're not supposed to go and tell everyone everything. Yaqub alayhi salam teaches us, some people might try to harm you. The story of Musa is even more serious. Because if she told anyone that was her brother, he would get killed. He would get killed. No one had to tell her, but still she kept the secret. Okay, and then we'll end this first section off with this. Yusuf alayhi salam, at the very end of the story, he becomes the source of rizq for all of his family. Why do they come to Egypt anyway? To buy food. Musa alayhi salam is in need of rizq. So his family is the one giving him rizq. His mother is the one giving him the milk, so she's giving him the rizq. And Yusuf alayhi salam is the one giving his family the rizq. Sometimes the rizq can come from the parents, sometimes the rizq can come from the children. This is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is teaching us. Alright. Now, I went over this. Did I do this? Yes, did this. Did this too. Okay. Yusuf alayhi salam, Musa alayhi salam. Both of them, in the very beginning of their fitna, were put into water. Both of them. Yusuf alayhi salam was put where? Water in the well. Musa alayhi salam was put where? The river. He was put in the river. Musa alayhi salam's Yusuf alayhi salam. I'm gonna make this mistake 100 more times tonight. So make sure you know who I'm talking about. Yusuf alayhi salam was put into what kind of water? Still water. And Musa alayhi salam was put into moving water. Yusuf alayhi salam, someone had to come to him. That's what the brothers said, right? Someone will come and find him. The brothers had to, someone had to come to him because he was in the still water. Musa alayhi salam he went right into the palace of Fir'aun. He went right into the palace of Fir'aun. Okay, then what happens? When the caravan came, this is so interesting. When the caravan came, where's this? When the caravan came, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes the way that Yusuf was taken from them. Okay. I can't remember what this point is. I'm going to skip this one. Okay. I have the one for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses iltaqata in both ways. Where does that come in Yusuf's story? Iltaqata. In any variation of the word. Because when it happens with Fir'aun, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, No, that's Musa. فَالْتَقَطَ وَآلُ فِرْعَوْنَ لِيَكُونَ لَهُمْ عَدُوًّا وَحَزَنًا. It means to pick him up and to take him. They're going to take care of him now. He's their responsibility. And it comes one more time in Yusuf alayhi salam's story, but I can't remember the variation of the verb where it comes and how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes it off the top of my head. So instead of giving you that wrong information, I'm just going to Is it there or is it the caravan? Oh, that's where it is. Yes, mashallah. Yusuf وَأَلْقُوا فِي غَيَابَةِ الْجُبِّ يَلْتَقِطُهُ بَعْضُ السَّيَّارَةِ. Someone is going to come and take him. A caravan is going to come and take him. So they already had that expectation. Fir'aun says it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes Fir'aun doing the same thing. فَالْتَقَطَهُ آلُ فِرْعَوْنَ لِيَكُونَ لَهُمْ عَدُوًّا وَحَزَنًا. They picked him up, they took care, they brought him to themselves. This is the part of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's plan. In both stories, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses the same verb. Okay, next. Yusuf, this one is very straightforward. Yusuf's story starts where? Palestine. And it ends where? Egypt. Musa's story starts where? Egypt. And it ends where? Palestine. Okay. In Sinai? They say that Musa alayhi salam is buried even more south than that, but the idea is that Bani Israel will eventually go back up there to Palestine. And more so the point here is one started outside of Egypt and goes into Egypt, and the other starts in Egypt and goes outside of Egypt. Okay. Who brings them home? This is a very, very interesting point, okay? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is very consistent in the things that He does, okay? And this is one of those other miracles. Yusuf alayhi salam's story starts off with which parent? The father, who is a man. Musa's story starts off with his mother, who is a woman. Musa alayhi salam is then brought home, Yusuf alayhi salam is then brought home as a slave by the Aziz, who's a man. Musa alayhi salam is picked up from the river and brought into the palace by Asiya, a woman. I'll skip a little bit, but I'll explain that when we get to that point. But it's consistent. Yusuf alayhi salam gets thrown into jail. 2 men, fatayan, 2 young men come and speak with him. Musa alayhi salam is outside. He gets to Midian and who needed help? 2 women. 2 women. So it's very, very consistent. Okay? Now, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that both both the Aziz and the wife of Fir'aun, Asiya, say the exact same sentence. The exact same sentence. Okay? Yes, just looking for it. The Aziz says to his wife, "Asa an yanfa'ana aw nattakhidahu walada." Okay? Perhaps he can yanfa'ana, we can take him into it as a slave. He can be of some kind of service to us. Service. أَوْ نَتَّخِذَهُ وَلَدًا. Or we can turn him into our child. We can adopt him. Asiya says the same thing. لَا تَقْتُلُوهُ عَسَىٰ أَن يَنْفَعَنَا أَوْ نَتَّخِذَهُ وَلَدًا. It's the exact same thing. Perhaps he can benefit us in some way, meaning turn him into a slave, or we can adopt him. In the first Yusuf alayhi salam story, what happened? He was turned into a slave. In Musa's story, what happened? Musa's story, he was turned into a child. He was turned into a child. There's only two options. In both ayat, two options only. أَيَنْفَعَنَا, he benefits us in some way. The meaning of it is that we turn him into a slave. The other is, we take him as a child. نَتَّخِذَهُ وَلَدًا. One story did the yanfa'ana, that's Yusuf alayhi salam story. He turned into their slave. And in the other story, Musa alayhi salam, he turned into their child. That's why Musa alayhi salam was, when he grew up, he was royalty, he was inside of the house of Fir'aun, he could go in and out whenever he wanted, even though he was an Israelite. He was a child, an adopted child to them. All right. One last thing on this one. We did this. Yusuf alayhi salam, this one. In Yusuf alayhi salam's story, the aggressor, the one who did something bad, the wife of the Aziz, did it because of her love for him. She did it because of her love for him, yeah? But that was misplaced love. وَرَاوَدَتْهُ الَّتِي هُوَ فِي بَيْتِهَا عَنْ نَفْسِهِ. That was misplaced love. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says about Fir'aun, He says about Fir'aun, what does He say? No, it's not here. I forgot which surah it's in. Oh, it's in Taha. I won't be able to find it that fast. It's Allah's talking about yes. وَأَلْقَيْتُ عَلَيْكَ مَحَبَّةً مِّنِّي. This specifically just this part. What does that mean? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave Musa alayhi salam something very special, where others loved him because of it. Fir'aun loved Musa alayhi salam. Despite he wanted to kill everyone else like him, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put something into Fir'aun's heart so that he loved Musa alayhi salam. So, and Fir'aun is the aggressor in Musa's story. Both times, it had to do with love that caused the issues that happened inside of the home. Fir'aun's love was something that was based on what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did as something natural that you would love for your child. The wife's love was something that was misplaced. It was from infatuation. It was from a haram means of trying to achieve that. But still, love was consistent in both of these cases. Okay, this is just a quick comparison of the two. All right, now, the type of trial. Now let's talk about the trials that happened, okay? Yusuf alayhi salam was indoors and it was private. Musa alayhi salam was outdoors, but it was still isolated. No one else knew, okay? One was indoors, the other was outdoors. The aggressor, the one who did something bad in Yusuf's story, was higher than him in rank. Okay, it was the wife of the Aziz, his owner. The same in Musa alayhi salam's story, the aggressor was who? The Israelite. No, the Israel. When he did the fitna, it was the Israelite who is lower than him in status. Because Musa alayhi salam is the son of Fir'aun at this point. So he has all of the protections from the law. Okay? What was the crime that was about to be committed in Yusuf alayhi salam's story? In Yusuf's story. The sin. What was the sin? That with the wife. Zina. Zina, number one. In Musa's story, what was the sin? Murder. Okay, now you tell me in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He said, in Surah Al-Isra, Allah says, وَلَا تَقْرَبُوا الزِّنَا. And then? And then after that He says it, right? وَلَا تَقْتُلُوا نَفْسًا. And then in Surah Furqan, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala flips it. What does He say in Surah Furqan? وَلَا تَقْتُلُوا نَفْسًا الَّذِي حَرَّمَ اللَّهُ إِلَّا بِالْحَقِّ وَلَا يَزْنُونَ. He flips it. These are the two biggest sins. Two biggest sins. In terms of other people. There are three, if we're going to categorize it, 3 ways. The biggest sin that a human being can do against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is what? Shirk. The biggest sin that one person can do to another person is what? Murder. The biggest sin a person can do to themselves is what? Zina. Sometimes one takes precedence over the other, other times the other takes precedence over the first. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in Isra, first zina, then qatl, murder. And then in Furqan, He mentions murder first and then zina. In Yusuf's story, the problem was what? Zina. In Musa's story, the problem was murder. Okay, lastly, Yusuf alayhi salam, he does what? He seeks forgiveness for his sin, or he seeks help in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala before it even happens. He says, ma'adallah. But Musa alayhi salam, after he ends up killing someone, then he goes back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What does he say? Inni zalamtu nafsi faghfirli. فاغفر فغفر له إنه هو الغفور الرحيم قال ربي بما أنعمت علي فلن أكون ظهيرا للمجرمين. I will never help the wrongdoing people. I made a mistake. Oh Allah, forgive me. This is another parallel. Yusuf alayhi salam turns to Allah first. Musa alayhi salam turns to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala afterwards. Okay. Loyalty. Okay. And this is the last point before we move on to number 4, the fourth main theme. Last one is loyalty. Yusuf alayhi salam was loyal to his non-family member. What did he say? What did Yusuf alayhi salam say? When the wife tried to commit zina, he said, "Innahu Rabbi ahsana mathwaya." Your husband has been very good to me. So he's being loyal to him. Of course, he's doing it for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but he's showing loyalty to someone who's not even his family. On the flip side, Musa alayhi salam, he sees an issue with the Israelite, and then he sees the issue with the Israelite and the Egyptian soldier. The first time he goes and he intervenes, okay? The second time he turns his back and he says, "No, you're the troublemaker." Even though that's his actual family, they're related. Musa and that Israelite, they're related. He still turned his back because it wasn't the right thing to do. Sometimes, if someone is not your family member, but they have the haqq, you have to be with them. And if someone is your family member, but they are the zalim, they are the oppressor, then it's your responsibility to turn your back against them. All right, number 4. Okay. Is this the next one? I don't think it's there. Oh, yes. Okay. At the very, very beginning, no, I'm missing something. Oh, here. At the very, very beginning, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He tells us that both of the prophets, they get something. Both of the prophets, they get something. Okay? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says for Yusuf alayhi salam, وَلَمَّا بَلَغَ أَشُدَّهُ آتَيْنَاهُ حُكْمًا وَعِلْمًا وَكَذَلِكَ نَجْزِي الْمُحْسِنِينَ. Almost the exact same ayah in the story of Musa, of Musa alayhi salam. وَلَمَّا بَلَغَ أَشُدَّهُ وَاسْتَوَى آتَيْنَاهُ حُكْمًا وَعِلْمًا وَكَذَلِكَ نَجْزِي الْمُحْسِنِينَ. Okay? Here are two very quick points about this. Yusuf alayhi salam, wisdom and then knowledge. Sometimes we think you have to gain knowledge, you have to have life experience first, and then you get wisdom. But Allah gives wisdom. You can have wisdom even when you're young. وَكَذَلِكَ نَجْزِي الْمُحْسِنِينَ. This is how we reward those who excel, who do very, very good, who try their hardest. Try your hardest, and then Allah will give you knowledge and wisdom. This is the lesson. The exact same story with Musa alayhi salam, except Allah adds one thing. وَاسْتَوَى. He granted him strength. Why? What's the point of mentioning this? Because that's what the whole fitna is about. Musa alayhi salam hits someone with his strength, and then what happens? The person dies. Very interesting. In Yusuf's story, وَلَمَّا بَلَغَ أَشُدَّهُ آتَيْنَاهُ حُكْمًا وَعِلْمًا وَكَذَلِكَ نَجْزِي الْمُحْسِنِينَ. Right away, وَرَاوَدَتْهُ الَّتِي هُوَ فِي بَيْتِهَا. He said Allah gave him this. Allah gave him this. As soon as that happened, the fitna starts. Sometimes you keep asking for something from Allah. You ask. Why isn't it coming to me? Maybe because the fitna is tied to it and you're not ready to pass the fitna. Maybe that's the reason. Allah gave it to them, and then right after that, the fitna started. That's when she locked the doors and tried to commit zina. What happened with Musa? وَلَمَا بَلَغَ وَشُدَّهُ وَاسْتَوَى آتَيْنَاهُ حُكْمًا وَعِلْمًا وَكَذَلِكَ نَجْزِي الْمُحْسِنِينَ. And then he came in, فَوَجَدَ فِيهَا رَجُلَيْنِ يَقْتَتِلَانِ. And then he hit someone. Both times, exact same thing. Allah gives them something, and then the fitna starts. So if you're going to ask Allah, remember, tied to it may be something where Allah is going to give you more strength, or He's going to test whether or not you're using what He gives you properly. Okay, next. Yusuf alayhi salam is tried. Okay? Yusuf's trial is a trial of beauty, and Musa alayhi salam is a trial of strength. Okay, Yusuf alayhi salam is the most beautiful man to have ever lived. Musa alayhi salam is extremely, extremely strong. These are two things that are, if you just think about it for a moment in your own mind. How often do you worry about the way that you look, and how often do you worry about how strong your body is? Especially those who are younger, they think about these two things more than anything else. More than anything else. How good do I look? Do I have a good haircut? Do I have the best smell? Do I have the best clothes? How do I look to other people? Number two, how strong am I? Can I go to the gym if I work out? How heavy can I lift? How strong is my body? And the older that you get, these things still matter, but in different ways. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala showcased both of these to us in these two stories. Yusuf alayhi salam about looks, Musa alayhi salam about strength. Okay. So, this is what happened. I skipped it a little bit. Indoors, we talked about this already. Yusuf is indoors and private, and Musa is outdoors and it's isolated. Okay, so I did this. Yusuf alayhi salam says ma'adallah before, and Musa alayhi salam says faghfirli afterwards. These are the two only options in terms of sin. The two options. If it's about to happen, ask Allah for help so that you don't fall into it. If something happens and you fell into it, ask Allah to forgive you. These are the two very, very simple things. All right. Now, we talked about this already. Okay. Here we are. So Yusuf alayhi salam and Musa alayhi salam both have very, very interesting things. In Yusuf's story, the wife and the women gave a false testimony. They lied. In Yusuf's story, the shirt had to prove that he was innocent. Yeah? In Musa's story, the testimony was true. That there was a man who said to him, إنك يا موسى أتريد أن تقتلني كما قتلت نفسا بالأمس. do you want to kill me like you killed the other person a while back? He testified against him. He told everyone that this is what Musa alayhi salam did. Okay? So this is about testimony. Yusuf had material evidence. These are two ways of in court, how do you prove your case? One is material evidence. The other is character witness or witness testimony. Okay? Yusuf alayhi salam, what happened? Material witness. His shirt. They could actually see with their eyes that the shirt was ripped. And that's how they proved his innocence. Musa alayhi salam, someone spoke up. Someone spoke up and said, this is what I saw, this is what happened. These are the two ways. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala highlights both of them in these two surahs. Okay. Number 3, mob mentality. Mob mentality, very powerful. When people get together, they can be very powerful. Sometimes in a good way, sometimes in a bad way. When all of the women got together against Yusuf alayhi salam, then this is what forced the Aziz to say, too many people know, too many things are happening, you have to go to jail. In Musa alayhi salam's situation, when so many people became aware of the situation, what happened? He had to run away and leave the city. Because people, when so many people know and there's no proper way of investigation, no proper method of investigation, then everyone becomes judge, jury, executioner. And they want to do whatever they want to do without proper protocol. In Yusuf alayhi salam's story, the minister, the Aziz, does not help him escape. He doesn't help him, okay, from jail. But in Musa alayhi salam's story, his friend who is with the royalty, his police friend, is the one who helps him to escape. So there's opposites there. Yusuf alayhi salam, found innocent, but thrown in jail. Musa alayhi salam is guilty, but he does not have to go to jail. You see? You see the comparisons between these? Okay. Oh, one more thing about this. Both stories had two incidences. Right? The first one, Yusuf alayhi salam, the first one, what happens? The wife of the Aziz locks the door, and then the husband shows up. She rips the shirt from the back, the husband shows up. Afterwards, people start talking in the town. People start talking in the town, and then she invites all of the women to the house. She invites all of the women to the house. Then when they have their, so many more people are present, that's when he gets thrown into jail, okay? Musa alayhi salam, the first time it's just them three. Musa alayhi salam, the soldier, and the Israelite. He kills the soldier. It's just them. And then later on it happens again, where it's just them two, and so many other people are around watching what happens, right? And then Musa alayhi salam has to leave from there. Okay, sorry, I lost my place. Okay, and then Yusuf alayhi salam, Musa alayhi salam, both of them, character assassination. I talked about this a little bit before, just very quickly I'll say what it means. Character assassination is when you don't care about the action that happened, you talk about the person. So you have someone who comes here, I'll give you a religious example. You have a person, he sits down here, and he says, this hadith is not applicable in this situation because the Prophet ﷺ, the X, Y, and Z, the wording of this hadith is this, the person in this sanad is weak, so we don't take this hadith. And then another person wants to attack him and he says, no, don't even listen to what he's saying. He's a mubtadi'. He's kafir. He's not even a good Muslim. Oh, he doesn't even pray. You talk about the action of the person or the person themselves instead of talking about the things that they're talking about, the arguments themselves. This happens in both stories, and we see the negative consequences of that. So in Yusuf alayhi salam's story, character assassination right away. He opens the door. Right? He opens the door. And what does she say? ما جزاء من أراد بأهلك بأهلك سوءا إلا أن يسجن أو عذاب أليم. What are you going to do with someone? She has a question, like a rhetorical question, but it was assassinating someone. What are you going to do with someone who wants to do something evil to your family? That's it. Assassinated his character. Nothing else that he says even matters anymore. Then Musa alayhi salam, exact same thing. Exact same thing. He says, قال يا موسى أتريد أن تقتلني كما قتلت نفسا بالأمس. Do you want to kill me like you killed someone before? إن تريد إلا أن تكون جبارا في الأرض. It's like you just want to be the strongest in the whole wide world. وما تريد أن تكون من المصلحين. And I know you don't want to be a good person. What does any of that have to do with the murder? Nothing. But he attacked his character. He attacked his character. That means no matter what he says afterwards, it's not going to matter. So this is the comparison there between Musa alayhi salam and Yusuf alayhi salam. Okay, I'm going to go a little bit faster just because I know we're running out of time. I don't want to keep you here all night long. Type of isolation. Yusuf alayhi salam is isolated. Both of them are isolated. Yusuf alayhi salam is isolated inside of a prison for about 12 years. And Musa alayhi salam is isolated outside, away from family, away from friends, outside of Egypt, in the desert. Okay? So Yusuf is physically tied down. Musa alayhi salam he's not physically tied down, but he's emotionally emotionally tied down, and he's exiled from his land. Then this is what I was talking about before. Yusuf alayhi salam, dad. Then the minister, the man, takes him home. Now these two men come to him to ask him for the interpretation of the dream. And they say, we see you as a good person. We see you as a good person, so tell us what the interpretation of the dream is. Musa alayhi salam is raised by the mother. Asya, a woman, takes him home. And now two women are going around the area, needing to give water to their animals. And then they find Musa alayhi salam. Musa alayhi salam finds them and goes up to them and says, what do you need? Ma khatbukuma? What do you need? In Yusuf's story, the two men go to Yusuf. In Musa's story, the two women come to Musa. Okay? Musa alayhi salam, after this, Musa alayhi salam takes the animals, he goes out and he gives them water. And then he comes back and gives them back to the girls, and then he leaves. What does Yusuf do? The two men come, and then what does he do? They say, we saw a dream, can you interpret the dream? What does Yusuf do? He gives them da'wah. And then before the conversation is finished and the other guards come in, then he gives them the interpretation of the dream. Musa alayhi salam spoke only as little as needed. I see you need help, I'll help you. He takes the animals, goes to give them the water, brings them back. Okay, I don't need anything else. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala even says, what did he do at that point? فَسَقَالَهُمَا ثُمَّ تَوَلَّ إِلَى الظِّلِّ. He gave the water, he gave them back, and then he went under a tree. So the two girls, they knew something is up with this. Like, why is he going and sitting down under a tree all by himself? Okay? In Musa alayhi salam's story, in Yusuf alayhi salam's story, what did I mention that? Two men. What did I mention that though? In Musa alayhi salam's story, it's two men. He's a man, they're two men, so I'm going to give you da'wah. This is the opportunity. I'm going to use that opportunity to give you da'wah. But I'm not going to speak unnecessarily to the opposite gender. That invites fitna. Yusuf alayhi salam is all about zina. Musa alayhi salam doesn't even go close to the idea of zina. Okay? Then, after this, there are two ways of, if you think about your job, you're using one of two things: physical strength or intellectual strength. So if you are, let's say you deliver Amazon packages, okay? You have to physically pick that up, and then you have to go to people's houses and put that down. It's taxing on the body. It's physical work. Let's say you work on computers, okay? Whatever you drive, you work on computers. You are sitting there. It's not physically demanding on your body, but you have to use your mind a lot. These are the two different things. Yusuf alayhi salam's story is all about the strength of the intellect that Allah gave him. All of it is about the intellect. What is his strength? What is his, yes, knowledge about interpreting dreams. Musa alayhi salam's whole thing is strength. Yusuf alayhi salam, when they came to him, they asked him to interpret the dream. When they came to Musa alayhi salam, they needed help, or when Musa went to them, they needed help with a strong person who could hold the animals and go inside. The other people, you could assume that the other people are bad people. They're not good people, right? Like if there's a whole bunch of men who are around the river, then there's probably bad. That's why the women are all the way in the back waiting for them to finish, because they don't want to go over there and mix with them. So they're waiting over there. Yusuf alayhi salam, they say, we see you as a good person. We see you as a good person. Musa alayhi salam, they trusted him based on the way that he looked. He was so different. And then when they come back, when they come back, oh no, so this point will come back afterwards. But this is where their strength lies. This is where their strength lies. When Musa alayhi salam is speaking later on with the father, the daughter, one of the two daughters, and her father are speaking with one another, and she says, Ya abati istajir. Hire him. Why? Inna khayra man istajarta al-qawiyyu al-amin. The best person that you can hire is someone who is first qawi and then amin. Qawi and then amin. Qawi is what? Strong. Amin is trustworthy. What happens in Yusuf alayhi salam's story? All the way at the very end, when he gets to when he gets to be to come out. Yes, and then Inni hafidhun alim. Inni hafidhun alim. What is hafidh? I'm going to take care of this because I know how to do it, and I am trustworthy, I'm a good person. Alim, I am knowledgeable. I know how to do it. Okay? Why did the king bring Yusuf alayhi salam? There's the ayah before that. قال وقال الملك توني به أستخلصه لنفسي. He's all mine, all to myself. فلما كلمه. After he spoke with him, he realized how good of a person he is. So he said, قال إنك اليوم لدينا مكين أمين. Makin is well established, like you don't have to worry about anything. And you're amin. Same word again, amin. Same exact word. So what's the lesson here? Very quickly before going on. What's the lesson here? You have two types of strengths. It could be a physical strength with your body, or it could be an intellectual strength with your mind. But that's only half of the puzzle. Regardless, it's half the puzzle. The other, you have to be amin. You have to be trustworthy. If you lack that's if you lack that of having trustworthiness, then no matter what skills you have, people aren't going to want to be around you. They're not going to want to hire you. They're not going to trust you with their things. None of that is ever going to happen. So with your skill, you also have to be trustworthy. Okay. The narration of personal history. This is very beautiful. Yusuf alayhi salam, when he's speaking with the two prisoners in jail, subhanAllah, he goes and he gives them his entire like family history. And he says, oh no, it's not here. He says, what's before this stuff? He's speaking with them in jail, and he starts by giving them the da'wah. But when he's doing that, إِنِّي تَرَكْتُ مِلَّةَ قَوْمٍ لَا يُؤْمِنُونَ بِاللَّهِ وَهُمْ بِالْآخِرَةِ هُمْ كَافِرُونَ. He's telling them about his religious beliefs. What does he do? وَاتَّبَعْتُ مِلَّةَ آبَائِ my father. He gives him his family history. آبائي إبراهيم وإسحاق ويعقوب ما كان لنا أن نشرك بالله من شيء ذلك من فضل الله علينا وعلى الناس ولكن أكثر الناس لا يشكرون. I follow the path of my father, of all of my fathers, Ibrahim, Ishaq, and Yaqub. And we are not people who worship others with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's virtue, bounty upon us, the goodness that He has given us. And He's given to other people as well. But most people are not grateful for that blessing. Okay? After this, he starts more into the da'wah. أَأَرْبَابٌ مُتَفَرِّقُونَ خَيْرٌ أَمِ اللَّهُ الْوَاحِدُ الْقَهَّارُ مَا تَعْبُدُونَ مِن دُونِي إِلَّا أَسْمَاءً سَمَّيْتُمُوهَا أَنْتُمْ وَآبَاؤُكُمْ. Okay? And he keeps on going back and forth about this. And then he gives them the answer for what their dream interpretation is. Musa alayhi salam, Allah doesn't tell us every single thing that happens. Everything about Musa alayhi salam, Yusuf alayhi salam is positive that he's sharing here. And then all the way at the very end of the surah, what does Yusuf say to the brothers? قَدْ مَنَّ اللَّهُ عَلَيْنَا. He shares the good things. In Musa alayhi salam's story, it's different. He shares, but is everything good about Musa's life? No, you're not going to get the question because I said it wrong. Musa alayhi salam leaves Egypt and he goes to Midian. The two sisters bring him, one of the sisters brings him back home, and then he's speaking with the father. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, she said, لِيَجَزِيَكَ أَجْرَ مَا سَقَيْتَ لَنَا. My father wants to give you some reward for what you did for us. فَلَمَّا جَاءَهُ وَقَصَّ عَلَيْهِ الْقَصَصِ. When he went to the father, he told him everything that happened in the past. But Allah didn't repeat the things. Musa alayhi salam, we don't know about the details of that conversation. But Yusuf alayhi salam's story says, when you have good information, you can share it. When you have bad information, you can share it. What does sabr entail? Not complaining about what happens to other people, but giving the information to someone else. That's not haram, so long as there's a benefit there. So after he says, قَالَ لَا تَخَفْ نَجَوْتَ مِنَ الْقَوْمِ الظَّالِمِينَ. Don't be afraid anymore. Don't be afraid. You have been saved from the wrongdoing people. Okay? All right. And talked about Musa. To pass on purpose. Okay. We'll skip this one. Musa alayhi salam and Yusuf alayhi salam. Both were given signs by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay? Yusuf's sign, like the dream, was about the financial state of Egypt for the next 15 years. 7 years of good times, 7 years of bad times, and then 1 year of replenishment. Okay? Musa alayhi salam was the opposite. It was the opposite. What was that? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave all of these different signs. The famine and the insects and all of these things. All of that was for one reason, is to bring them back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So in Yusuf's story, good happened, knowing that there was going to be bad afterwards. Fir'aun's story, bad happened to the people with the intention that they turn around and go back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then good would come because they would humble themselves in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yusuf's interpretation of the dream saved Egypt. Musa's story was the reason why Egypt was destroyed. Or at least Fir'aun and his people were destroyed. Okay, Yusuf alayhi salam. Also, Yusuf alayhi salam, he asks the person who comes, who's going to live. The two people came to him for the dream interpretation. He asked one of them, mention me to your king. Mention me to the king. He asked to be seen. Musa alayhi salam never asked to be seen by the Fir'aun. He was told by Allah, go to Fir'aun. These are two different journeys, but it's all about the prophet going to the head of state. One is the king, he asks to go. The other is the Fir'aun, and he doesn't ask. He's commanded by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that he has to go. Yusuf alayhi salam, when he's in jail and he's about to go out, what does he say? he has the opportunity to go out. He says, go to your king and ask the king, what's his opinion about what happened with the women all those years back? So Yusuf alayhi salam initiates the interrogation. He initiates the interrogation. The king goes and he interrogates the women. What happens with Fir'aun? He's interrogated. He is interrogated. Are you going to do the thing that you did? وَفَعَلْتَ فَعْلَتَكَ الَّتِي فَعَلْتَ وَأَنْتَ مِنَ الْكَافِرِينَ. He interrogated him. So again, interrogation. One person is in a position of power, the other is in a position of weakness. But this is contrasting the two stories. What happens after this? What's the outcome? Yusuf alayhi salam, as a result of this, proved his innocence. And he finally came out of jail. Musa alayhi salam admits his guilt afterwards. He admits his guilt. He said, قَالَ فَعَلْتُهَا إِذًا وَأَنَا مِنَ الضَّالِّينَ. I did do this at that point. You're right, I did do it, and I was misguided. I was the one who made the mistake. He admits his guilt. So his guilt is established as a result. What happens when Yusuf alayhi salam comes out? After this? He's promoted. He is promoted. What happens with Musa alayhi salam? No, he's already in the palace. He's coming back now. What happens with Musa alayhi salam? Like Yusuf starts the interrogation process, and then he's exonerated, and he's elevated. He becomes the minister of finance. Musa alayhi salam is the one who's interrogated. After this happens, he admits his guilt, and then what happens? No, he doesn't run away. He's already run away before. He comes back to Fir'aun. Yes, but just before that, he is threatened. Before that, he is threatened. He says, قَالَ لَإِنِ اتَّخَذْتَ إِلَهًا غَيْرِي لَأَجْعَلَنَّكَ مِنَ الْمَسْجُونِينَ. If you take a God other than me, I will, listen to the wording, لَأَجْعَلَنَّكَ مِنَ الْمَسْجُونِينَ. I am going to make you one of the prisoners. I'm going to make you one of the prisoners. And masjuneen has the context of you're going to be in jail for the rest of your life. But what happened in the story of Imrat al-Aziz? What did she say? لَيَسْجُنُنَّهُ. What does that mean? We're going to throw you into jail, but it's going to be for a specific amount of time. It's a fi'l, it's a verb. That means it's going to end. Masjuneen is a ism. It means forever. It's always going to be like that. Both of them threatened with jail. Yusuf alayhi salam for a short time, Musa alayhi salam forever. Why? Because the same reason. It's because of Allah, because of their deen. Yusuf refused to go against Allah. Musa alayhi salam did what he was doing by calling Fir'aun to Allah. Okay. Then, also another point of very, very interesting. Yusuf alayhi salam, when he gets freed out of jail, he raises up to the ranks of the Minister of Finance. But he asked to do it. He asked to do it, right? And he started out as a shepherd. Yusuf alayhi salam started out as a shepherd, yeah? He was at home, he was doing, he wasn't old enough yet, but that's what the family does, being a shepherd. And he ends up as the Minister of Finance. Musa alayhi salam starts off as royalty and then turns into the shepherd when he helps the two women, right? In this, the father of the daughter asks him to stay here for 10 years so that you can help me around the house. He goes from royalty to someone who helps around the house. Yusuf alayhi salam goes from someone who is staying at home and basically doing nothing to becoming royalty, the Minister of Finance. This is what this is what happens in the contrast of the two stories. Okay, almost done. Covered this already too. Okay, few things that happen. Very, very interesting. There are opposites that happen. Okay, these are opposite parts. Inversion means the opposites that happen in the story. The first thing is before the confrontation happens, before the main plot happens, the prophet and their brother is reunited. Yusuf alayhi salam is reunited with Binyamin before the brothers realize that he is Yusuf alayhi salam. That's the whole big plot. And then before Yaqub is brought to them. Musa alayhi salam, before he has to go forth and do the things with that Allah tells him about, he is reunited with who? Harun. How? How is he reunited with Harun? He asks Allah. He says, فأرسل إلى هارون ويضيق صدري ولا ينطق لساني فأرسل إلى هارون. And he says in Surah Taha too, right? Where's Taha? Taha is here. He says in Taha too, at the very beginning of Taha, subhanallah. قال رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي واجعل لي وزيرا من أهلي هارون أخي واشدد به أزري وأشركه في أمري. Subhanallah, he's asking all of this stuff from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah has given him the job. So he says, oh Allah, help me out, expand my chest, because he was so anxious. And anxiety makes you become smaller and more constricted. So he says, widen my chest for me. وَيَسِّرْ لِي أَمْرِي, make this easy for me. وَحْلُلْ عُقْدَةً مِّن لِسَانِي, undo the knot in my tongue, because he had a lisp, he had some speech problems. يَفْقَهُ قَوْلِي, so that people can understand what I'm saying. وَجَعَلْ لِي وَزِيرًا مِّنْ أَهْلِي, and give me a representative from my family, Harun أَخِي, my brother Harun. Subhanallah. So before he goes to Fir'aun, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reunites him with Yusuf, with Musa, with his brother Harun. Before he goes to Fir'aun, Allah reunites Musa and Harun, and before the brothers realize it's Yusuf and Yaqub is reunited with them, Allah reunites Yusuf with his brother Binyamin. Okay, then, and you know what's very, very amazing about both of this? Both of the brothers, Binyamin for Yusuf and Harun for Musa, stayed quiet. Silent support. He literally says in Shu'ara, وَيَضِيقُ صَدْرِي وَلَا يَنطَلِقُ لِسَانِي فَأَرْسِلْ إِلَى هَارُونَ. I'm not going to be able to speak. You have to send Harun. He'll be able to do the speaking. And then never at any point does Harun actually say anything. Both stories. Yusuf alayhi salam, the Egyptian guards say, someone has stolen. You caravan are the thieves. Binyamin stays quiet. Afterwards, him and Yusuf and the brothers are going back and forth about who's going to become the slave. Binyamin stays quiet. Harun never quoted throughout the entire process. Amazing, subhanallah, the symmetry about it. Role reversal is second, okay? So Yusuf alayhi salam becomes the judge, because this is what's happening. The brothers are in the court, someone stole the chalice, the siqaya, someone stole it. So Yusuf alayhi salam now becomes the judge. Musa alayhi salam, and who are the plaintiffs? No, not plaintiffs. Who are the defendants? Who are the ones that are accused of doing wrong? The brothers. So it flipped. Musa alayhi salam goes back to Fir'aun, and Fir'aun interrogates him, meaning Fir'aun is the judge and Musa alayhi salam is the defendant. He has to defend himself when he says, I am the one who does that. So Fir'aun is the judge in their story. The brothers who are the wrongdoers in the first place are the ones on trial, but Musa alayhi salam in his story is the one who's on trial. Yusuf alayhi salam, he reminds them of the mistake that they did in the past for one reason. What's the reason? To fix all of the problems in the family. This is what happened, but listen, قَدْ مَنَّ اللَّهُ عَلَيْنَا. Let's fix this stuff. Let's leave it in the past. لَا تَثْرِيبَ عَلَيْكُمُ الْيَوْمِ. Fir'aun is the judge, and he brings up what Musa alayhi salam did. Why? What was his purpose of bringing it up? وَتِلْكَ نِعْمَةٌ تَمُنُّهَا عَلَيَّ أَنْ عَبَّدْتَ بَنِي إِسْرَائِيل. You're saying that just because you raised me in your house that it's okay for you to enslave all of Bani Israel? Yusuf alayhi salam's intention was good and clean. He wanted to bring the family back together. Fir'aun was evil. He wanted to justify doing one good thing with with Musa, and justify enslaving all of Bani Israel as a result. Okay? In Yusuf's story, Bani Israel are the ones who are doing wrong. In Musa's story, Bani Israel are the ones who are enslaved, that others did wrong to them. And then, this is the last one before we finish off with point number 8. Both stories, miraculous sajda. Yusuf alayhi salam's brothers and Musa and their father Yaqub alayhi salam and his wife all come together. وَخَرُّوا لَهُ سُجَّدًا. Yusuf alayhi salam's story, him and the magicians are going back and forth, and same thing. They all fell into sajda. Exact same thing in both stories. All right. So now, did this. Okay. So this is the last part. Okay. The final outcome. What ends up happening throughout all of the stories? In Yusuf alayhi salam's story, the Bani Israel came to Egypt to look for food, whereas in Musa alayhi salam's story, the Bani Israel left from Egypt and then they went to food. I talked about that. Yeah. Both stories happened under the leadership of a prophet. Both stories happened under the leadership of a prophet. Yusuf alayhi salam, first he was well settled at his home. And then he became a slave in the Aziz's house. He had it good, and then he became a slave. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala turned back around all the way at the end, and he brought him back up. He freed him from slavery. Musa alayhi salam was free as well, but his so no, let me say that one more time. Yusuf alayhi salam is home in Palestine. Yusuf is a home in Palestine. He's well settled. When he leaves from there, what happens? He gets turned into a slave in Egypt. Musa alayhi salam is born there. He's born and raised in Egypt, and then he's exiled. Okay? When he's exiled, much later on in the story, I'm saying this wrong. Yusuf gets sent out of Palestine, comes to Egypt as a slave, and then he settles down in Egypt. Musa alayhi salam starts off in Egypt. He gets exiled. He doesn't choose to go. He chooses to go. Yusuf doesn't. He chooses to go. And as a result, what would later end up happening is when he was saved from Fir'aun's army, he would have to settle down in, more up north, outside of Egypt. Okay? Just a couple more points. Who wronged who? Yusuf alayhi salam was first wronged by his own brothers. Okay? His brothers are the ones who threw him into the well. And then Yusuf alayhi salam was wronged by the Egyptians. Because the minister was Egyptian, he threw him into jail. Musa alayhi salam was wronged first by who? The Egyptians. He was wronged first by the Egyptians. And then after he was saved from Fir'aun, what happened? He was wronged by Bani Israel after that. Resolution. What happens? Yusuf alayhi salam, subhanAllah, Yusuf alayhi salam, when the brothers come back, what does he say to the brothers? Now we're talking about each of the end of both stories. Yusuf alayhi salam at the end, he says, "La tathriba alaykum al-yawm." He forgives them completely. Okay? He reunites with them, and their story ends peacefully. Musa alayhi salam, it does not end peacefully. He saves all of them from Fir'aun, and then they have all of their problems start, and Musa alayhi salam goes back and forth for years, arguing with Bani Israel because they just won't learn their lesson. So what does he say to Allah? فَافْرُقْ بَيْنِي وَبَيْنَ قَوْمِي. Subhanallah. He says, I'm done with these people. Yusuf alayhi salam, he says, I forgive you, you're my brothers, I forgive you. Musa alayhi salam says, you're my family, but I'm done with you. I can't do this anymore. So he asked Allah, فَافْرُقْ بَيْنِي وَبَيْنَ قَوْمِي. Separate, put some separation between us. I'm done, I can't do this anymore. Musa alayhi salam, Yusuf alayhi salam, the brothers come and everyone reunites and it's peaceful. What happens with with the fitna of Musa alayhi salam and Fir'aun? It's not peaceful. How does it end? Fir'aun is drowned. It ends violently. It ends violently. Okay, and the last one. Musa alayhi salam and the wife of the Aziz, both of them, they end up redeeming themselves in the surah. Both of them. The brothers, they say, we have certainly made a mistake. Okay? قالوا تالله لقد آثرك الله علينا وإن كنا لخاطئين. Allah has made it painfully obvious. Where you are and where we are, look, we are 100% wrong for what happened. And the wife of the Aziz, exact same thing. She says, قُلْنَا حَاشَ لِلَّهِ مَا عَلِمْنَا عَلَيْهِ مِنْ سُوءٍ قالت امرأة العزيز الآن حصحص الحق أنا راودته عن نفسي وإنه لمن الصادقين. Both times they admit that they were wrong, and as a result, they are both redeemed for the mistakes that they did. We don't speak ill of them anymore. That's it. Khalas, whatever happened in the past. They have redeemed themselves and they moved on on a good foot, on a good note. What happened with Musa and Fir'aun? What happened with Musa and Fir'aun? Also two stories. Yusuf had two stories, the wife and the brothers. Musa also had two stories. Fir'aun and the Bani Israel, the Israelites. Fir'aun, did he redeem himself? No, he was drowned violently, and he tried to say it, but he couldn't say it. Jibreel wouldn't let him, he was drowned. The Israelites, they tried to redeem themselves. They kept doing things, and then Allah would forgive them. I want this, I want to see Allah, I want this kind of food, I want this calf, I want to do this, I want to do it that way. Until Musa alayhi salam finally gave up, he was done. Until he was completely done. So the Israelites, they themselves did not redeem themselves either. Neither Fir'aun, neither the Bani Israel. And then we know the story of Bani Israel after that. For all of the prophets that came later on, the amount of times the Bani Israel tried killing their prophets, all up until the time that they will be the greatest supporters of Dajjal. So that is going to keep on continuing. That is going to keep on continuing. I actually missed one very small point. That was the end of it, and I'll end off there. But when I was talking about that point of settlement and what we get out of settlement, subhanAllah, Yusuf alayhi salam, he left from a lower stature of a life, and then he went on to a greater stature, right? Even though he moved from freedom to slavery, Musa alayhi salam was kind of withheld inside of the home, but he was exiled and he was thrown out. Yusuf alayhi salam, he settled down in Egypt. And that resulted in what? Eventually Bani Israel would become enslaved. Musa alayhi salam left, he was exiled first and then he came back, and then he left with all of Bani Israel. And that resulted in what? They settled in different parts of Sham, right, of that region. But from that settlement, what would come much, much later on? Like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions of Sulaiman. He had the greatest kingdom. So the lesson here is what? You do whatever you can in your life. Whatever happens down the line, you have no idea what's going to happen. Perhaps something horrible can happen. May Allah save us from that. Or something amazing can happen, where another prophet is born, not for us, but for Musa alayhi salam, another prophet is born, and he has given the greatest kingdom that any human being has ever had in this world. At the end of the day, you do whatever you can do, and Allah, at the end of the day, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows exactly what will happen, and He will give the best to to whomever He wills. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow us to understand this. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us deep understanding of His book. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive us for any mistakes. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help us to understand the entire Quran. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept our teaching and learning for all of the time that we have been studying this surah, and we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make it a means of shafa'ah for us and not against us on the Day of Judgment. هذا وصلى الله على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.